With one word, this summer, the entire political conversation changed. Just one word, one adjective. You know the word. Weird. One word? Like that is some master level ninja witchcraft magic. Who you been hanging around with, Tim Walls? In the political party who used that word, in doing so, they reclaimed the right to define another word, normal. This is not going to be a political sermon because we are here for a very religious, a deeply religious reason, doing one of our most sacred rites. In our tradition, it is only the congregation, in this case 2 congregations, who can ordain. Today we are ordaining someone who has done the very hard work of becoming fellowshipped with the Unitarian Universalist Association. Carrie, you are becoming an ordained minister at a very interesting time. To paraphrase the old saying, may you be cursed/blessed to minister in interesting times. I firmly believe that it will be a blessing. I believe that Unitarian Universalism right now is poised to grow and to become the faith who we have always been called to be. Things are changing. Now, for Unitarian Universalism, that's nothing new. We change, we evolve, we grow all the time. That's why we are called the living tradition. But this summer, we did something big. We voted to change the way we articulate our faith. Our principles will always be a part of us, but we changed that articulation in our UUA bylaws. We now have 6 values, right? And we are centered in love, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, generosity, all of that centered in love. I expect that over the next few years, we're going to be unpacking those values, trying to figure out what is it that they mean and what are the different forms that they are going to take. And as we do that, I really believe we need to examine our context. We did not fall out of a coconut tree. We have 200 years of tradition, of theology, of history that have brought us to where we are now. And I think that we need to consider that. But even more importantly, we need to consider the context of the times in which we are currently living, because it's not just Unitarian Universalism that has changed. It is also the world around us. When Theodore Parker talked about how the arc of the universe bends toward justice, he didn't give us a timeline. And I know for many of us, especially because time isn't linear, right? The way things happen, as we see things dip back, we say, too long, too long. But make no mistake of it, things have changed. Now, in that 200 years of history, we have always been pretty comfortable with that word weird. We have always been nonconformist. I mean, very literally, our ecclesiological ancestors, the Puritans, ecclesiology refers to the way that you do church. We're still operating out of things that they set up, like congregational polity and calling out from among us a minister. They were called nonconformist. They were the OG nonconformist because they did not conform to the Church of England. Throughout our history, we have had so many Unitarians and Universalists, and after consolidation, the UUs, who have often not been matched by the times that they were living in. They often have been ahead of them. The Unitarians and Universalists and UUs who were working for abolition and suffrage and human rights and civil rights, I am sure that they were considered to be weird. More recently, my family, my parents became Unitarians in the 1950s. There may be some people who remember what it was like in Unitarian or Universalist churches back then. At that time, it was not safe to let people know that you were an atheist or that you were a free thinker, right? The Red Scare going on. We were in a very conservative time in our history. For me, I was a teenage UU in the 1980s in Montgomery County, Texas, the time of the rise of the so-called moral majority, the satanic panic. I know you know that one. And yet, I was considered the weird one. But times have changed. It may not always feel like it, but this is not the 1950s, and this is not the 1980s. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., do you know what he said was the most important class that he ever took? Like, he went to seminary, he got his doctorate. He said the most important class that he ever took was statistics. Because statistics tell us about the world in which we are living. So I'm going to throw just a few statistics at you, and these are all from either 2024 or just within the last couple of years. 64% of Americans favor policies that protect transgender individuals from discrimination. 64%, that's a majority. 69% believe that marriages between same-sex couples should be recognized by the law as valid with the same rights as traditional marriages. That's a majority. 65%, it is not necessary to believe in God to be moral. 70% say that they are proud to be part of a nation that is becoming more religiously diverse. They value pluralism. Outside, the society in which we are living has changed, and they are reflecting our values. They are reflecting our values. They share them, but they may not share our vibe. They may not match our freak, and I would say don't put the mission accomplished banner up quite yet, because it's never good to do that precipitously. But there is so much work left to be done, right? Gotta do something about all of this climate destruction and voting rights and economic disparity, and we need to overcome the white, cis, heteronormative, ableist patriarchy. There is a lot to do. Our to-do list is very, very big. We're going to need a bigger boat. We're going to need a bigger Unitarian Universalism. We are very comfortable with that word, weird. We have a certain self-identity. Unique, elite, kind of obscure. And there are people who share our values, but they may not match our particular freak. In the Hebrew Bible, there is a story of these two, call them kingdoms, who are at war with each other, Gilead and the tribe of Ephraim. And the Gileadites have beaten the Ephraimites. And so there is a group of surviving Ephraimites, and they are trying to scuttle back home, but they are captured. And the Gileadites ask them, "Are you Ephraimites?" And the Ephraimites say, "No, we're Gileadites." And these Gilead soldiers say, "Okay, say the word shibboleth." But in the dialect of the Ephraimites, there is no sh. And so they say Sibboleth. And so the Gileadites say, "You are not one of us," and they slew them. I hope that we are not quite so violent on Sunday mornings when visitors come to see us. But if we are honest, we have shibboleths. It's very interesting. If you ask UUs around the country, which I recently did on Facebook, about what are our stereotypes about ourselves, like there's no regional difference. It's all pretty much the same across the U.S. Free trade coffee drinking, Prius driving, NPR listening liberals, right? And just if anyone is going, "Wait, you just described me," there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, all of those things are based in values. But our values can take other forms, right? This attachment we have to being weird, to being unique, elite, kind of obscure, I worry about some of the people and what happens to them when they come to our congregations. We have the best intentions. But if we see people as being not us, it's going to come through. Unitarian Universalist, I do not worry about what you will do, unlike in some fundamentalist churches, if a tattooed, pierced person with bright orange hair walks in on Sunday morning. I just described our kids. I just described my kid. Or grandkids. I'm describing some of us, even some UU ministers. But I worry about what happens when the young, clean-cut man walks in with his nicely pressed Oxford, maybe wearing a suit jacket. I worry about him. I worry about the older guy wearing the trucker hat, not because it's trendy, but because he's been wearing it for 20 years and his wife still hasn't managed to throw it away. And he's really distressed about the people around him, people at work who are now speaking racism in such blunt ways, and he wants to be with a community of purpose and meaning that does not consider that acceptable and may even give him some of the tools to know how to respond. But my friends, he doesn't know what the word microaggression means. I'm worried about the lesbian who comes in with her wife and her toddler, and she was raised African Methodist Episcopal, but she's not feeling very welcome there right now. And she's thinking that maybe she would like to do some deconstruction, go through her faith and figure out what are the things she wants to keep, what are the things she wants to discard. But when she walks in, we don't know that. All we see is that she's wearing a cross and carrying a Bible. And the 19-year-old young man who comes in, and he really hasn't been raised as much of anything, but he's heard about us. He's heard that we draw wisdom from all the world's religions, Bible, Bhagavad Gita, and Beyonce. That makes a lot of sense to him. And so he comes in to see what we're about. And he's working construction right now, and he's up for a big promotion. And after the service, over coffee, we asked him, what college does he attend? We have Shibboleths. I have heard some Unitarian Universalists, and I think I have done it myself, refer to us as the island of misfit toys. For those who don't know, this is from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Those toys that don't quite fit in. And there is a value. There is a value in the fact that people do come to us, and just as we have come, and perhaps they have been called weird or misfit somewhere else, but we accept them and love them just as they are, and we don't want to lose any of that. But this attachment, this fusion to the word weird, to being unique, elite, kind of obscure, it is limiting us. And I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to me. Our church has an electronic sign, and we're located kind of in a neighborhood, and I have put out on our sign, are you the weird liberal in your neighborhood? So are we. But not anymore. Because when we take as our label weird, we are ceding the label normal to religious conservatives. Maybe our power for such a time as this lies not in being unique, elite, kind of obscure, but in being ordinary. Perhaps right now, it is our ordinariness that makes us great. We often think of ourselves as countercultural. I've used that word 1,000 times, but the statistics show that that is not intellectually or mathematically honest. We are ordinary, gloriously, joyously ordinary, and our values are. It should never have been our goal to have reflexive nonconformity. When we hear that the society outside us is bearing our values, I don't want to be a nonconformist to that. I want to throw our doors and our hearts open wide and say, come in, come in. You can teach us and we can teach you. In 1841, Theodore Parker, at an ordination, gave a sermon where he begged Unitarians to differentiate between the transient and the permanent. Our permanent values, the things that will always be with us, and the transient rituals and cultural markers that were there for a particular time, but will wind up holding us back and making us small. It's time to let go of these transient shibboleths of weirdness. Because when we claim our ordinariness, we get to bring all of the fruits of our values in with us and declare them not to be special, but to be ordinary. Common sense. Yeah, we use appropriate pronouns for each other, and we have gender-neutral bathrooms, and we are fighting for bodily autonomy for all people in all aspects. And yeah, of course, we know that all of us have been swimming in waters of racism and sexism and ableism and other oppressions. And so we want to work together to try and uproot that from us and to try and dismantle it from society. And yes, in our congregations, we have pagans and atheists and Buddhists and Christians and all of the above and none of the above, because we don't expect everyone to agree with one narrow set of beliefs. Come on. That'd be kind of weird. Carrie, you have already in your lifetime lived in so many different worlds, so many different cultures, from the very conservative to the not so much. Were you a pink pony girl and did you dance in the club? Pop song reference. All of that is a gift because you are going to be able to connect beyond the shibboleths that we have, beyond the expectations that we have of what it means to be a you. Carrie Holley-Hurt, may you minister in ordinary time.